The galaxy had always belonged to the Eryxian Empire. For thousands of years, their fleets had ruled the stars. Planets bowed before their power, and civilizations trembled at the mere sight of their ships. War was their language and conquest their art. The Eryxians prided themselves on their cunning, their strategy, and their unmatched strength. They believed that nothing could challenge them. Nothing until the humans arrived. It started quietly. A small ship, barely noticeable, drifted into Eryxian space. It was fragile, almost laughable compared to the massive dreadnoughts that patrolled the Empire. The Eryxian High Command stared at the readings in disbelief. A primitive species, one admiral scoffed. They have no weapons, no fleets, no chance. The Emperor himself laughed at the news. Send a message. Tell them to leave, he commanded. These humans are insignificant. They cannot threaten us. The humans did not respond with anger. Their first message was calm, almost polite. We come to trade, not to fight, said the voice of their captain, Commander Elara Vance. There was something in her tone that made the Eryxians pause. Calm, unshakable, like steel hidden under gentle words. The Emperor ignored it, assuming it was fear, but humans had never been predictable. Days later, their small fleet appeared. Not in fear, not in surrender, but with quiet confidence. The humans did not attack recklessly, nor did they beg for mercy. They simply arrived, and the Eryxians felt an unease they could not explain. For the first time, the Empire realized that humans were not like any species they had ever faced. When the first clash came, it was small, almost like a test. The Eryxians sent a patrol to confront the humans. They expected panic, retreat, or surrender. But instead, the humans fought with precision that seemed impossible. Each move, each strike was carefully calculated. They did not waste energy. They did not hesitate. The Eryxians were used to slow campaigns where battles dragged for months and years, giving time to regroup and plan. Humans fought differently. They fought to finish. On that first day, the Empire believed it was luck. On the second day, they realized it was intent. The humans did not fight to prove themselves, they did not fight for glory, and they certainly did not fight for politics. They fought to end the battle, to ensure it would not continue. And when they struck with terrifying efficiency. The Eryxians watched in disbelief as their strongest patrol was destroyed in hours. Ships that should have lasted weeks fell in minutes. No Eryxian had ever seen such speed, such precision, and such cold determination. Commander Vance sent a message afterward. It was not a boast. It was not a threat. It was simple. We do not fight for ourselves. We fight so that the war ends. Your soldiers do not deserve death, but your war must end. The words spread through the Empire like wildfire. Soldiers whispered them in fear. Generals frowned in confusion. The Emperor could not comprehend it. How could a species so small, so seemingly weak, accomplish what had taken the Empire centuries to do? The humans were an enigma, a force of nature wrapped in fragile skin, and they had just begun. By the time the first human ships left the battlefield, the galaxy had already started to change. Stories of their efficiency, their mercy, and their terrifying effectiveness reached every system. The oppressed planets began to hope. The Empire began to fear. Commander Vance and her fleet moved with a quiet purpose. They were not invaders. They were not conquerors. They were humans, strangers from a distant star, who had come to show the galaxy a truth that no one wanted to believe. Humans do not fight wars the way others do. Humans finish them, and the Empire, proud and unyielding for millennia, was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The Eryxians were confident. They had ruled the stars for thousands of years. No fleet, no species, no planet had ever stood against them for long. So when the humans appeared deeper in Eryxian space, they were dismissed as a minor nuisance. The High Command selected a small, lightly defended planet to test the newcomers. A planet that would fall in days, they believed. The Eryxian fleet arrived in force, 20 massive warships, each armed with weapons designed to obliterate worlds. Their commanders laughed at the human vessels. Only 7 ships, small and fragile, waited in orbit. The Eryxians expected a quick victory, a demonstration of their superiority. What they did not expect was fear. Commander Elara Vance observed the approaching Eryxian fleet from her command bridge. Her eyes were calm, her hands steady on the controls. "Prepare for engagement," she ordered, her voice quiet but firm. Her crew, trained for years under her exacting leadership, moved as one. There was no panic, no hesitation, only precise coordination. The human ships spread in perfect formation, each one anticipating the enemy's moves before they happened. The first shots rang out. The Eryxians expected chaos on the human side, but there was none. Each human strike hit its mark. One by one, Eryxian ships began to falter, their shields failing under attacks that seemed impossible. The humans did not waste energy. They did not aim to kill everything. They aimed to end the fight. Hours passed and the Eryxians were in shock. Their fleet, powerful enough to destroy entire planets, was being dismantled by a handful of ships. They tried to regroup, to retreat, to adapt, but the humans anticipated every move. Every weak point was exploited. Every escape route was blocked. Within a single day, the Eryxian patrols that had laughed at the humans lay in ruins, floating silently in the void. The survivors trembled as a human message arrived. It was not loud, not threatening, only simple. Your soldiers are brave. They deserve life. Your war does not. The words were strange. The humans were not boasting. They were not cruel. They were teaching. Teaching the galaxy that war could be swift, precise, and decisive. On the surface of the small planet, civilians watched in disbelief as the human ships maneuvered with almost impossible skill. No city was destroyed, no innocent life lost. The humans had fought to end the battle, not to destroy the world. Slowly, hope began to grow among the oppressed population. They whispered stories of the humans who came not to conquer but to liberate. Back on the Eryxian command ship, the Emperor's rage was unmatched. Impossible, he growled. They are just humans. They cannot do this. Send more ships. Crush them. But every new wave of attacks met the same fate. Every plan failed. Every strategy the Empire had relied on for centuries collapsed before a species they had called insignificant. The battle ended as quickly as it began. The remaining Eryxian ships retreated, battered and broken, leaving their patrol dead or captured. The humans did not celebrate. They did not cheer. Commander Vance stood silently on the bridge looking at the stars. She knew the battle was only the beginning. We cannot stop, she said softly. If we delay, more will suffer. We finish this now and always. By the time the Eryxians realized what had happened, the truth was clear. Humans did not fight like anyone else. They did not prolong wars to show strength. They did not fight for pride or politics. They fought to end the suffering, to finish the war, and to ensure peace could follow. Across the galaxy, the story spread. The Eryxians' allies whispered in fear. The oppressed planets began to dream of freedom. And the humans, small and unassuming, moved on to their next target with the same calm, unyielding resolve. For the first time in millennia, the Eryxian Empire felt doubt. For the first time, they understood that the humans were not just fighters. They were a force the galaxy had never seen before. A force that finished what others only started. The Empire had underestimated humanity. And humanity, as always, would prove that wars were never meant to linger. They were meant to end. The Eryxian Empire had never known defeat. For millennia, their fleets had ruled the stars. Their soldiers had conquered countless worlds, and their enemies had bowed before them. Yet in the quiet aftermath of the first human strike, a strange, unspoken fear began to creep through the ranks. The humans had not only survived, they had destroyed an entire fleet that was meant to show them mercy. The word spread quickly. The humans were not ordinary fighters. The Emperor summoned his generals to the Grand War Chamber, a room filled with towering holographic displays of the galaxy. His eyes burned with fury and disbelief. "Explain this," he demanded, his voice echoing like thunder. "How can a handful of humans destroy what we have spent centuries building?" One by one, the generals tried to answer. "It must be luck, Your Majesty," said the first, bowing low. Perhaps they struck at a weak point. The Emperor slammed his fist on the table. "Luck? Luck cannot destroy 20 ships in hours. Luck does not outsmart an entire fleet. There is something about them. Something unnatural." The whispers began among the soldiers and officers. They spoke of humans as if they were a storm, unstoppable and precise. Some called them monsters. Some called them angels. None of them knew exactly what to call the force that had shattered their confidence. But everyone understood one thing. The humans fought differently. Across the Empire, panic began to take root. The commanders of distant outposts reported strange news. Entire worlds had fallen before human fleets without prolonged battles. Systems that were loyal to the Empire trembled, wondering if their safety was an illusion. The humans did not merely fight, they ended conflicts swiftly and decisively, leaving no chance for resistance. It was a concept foreign to the Eryxians, who prided themselves on strategy, manipulation, and drawn-out campaigns. In the Emperor's private chambers, he stared at the stars with a heavy heart. For the first time, he questioned his own judgment. The humans were small, fragile beings compared to his towering fleets and vast armies, yet they had achieved what the Empire could not. They did not fight for conquest or pride. They fought with purpose. They fought to finish wars. Meanwhile, Commander Alara Vance and her fleet moved quietly through Eryxian space. They did not celebrate their victories. They did not boast. Each planet they liberated, each enemy fleet they defeated, was a step toward a greater goal, a galaxy where war could end before it consumed everything. The humans' precision and mercy confused the Eryxians further. Civilians on liberated worlds were spared. Cities were left standing. Prisoners were taken, not executed. There was a discipline in humanity's approach, a strange combination of strength and compassion. The galaxy began to see that humans did not fight because they loved battle. They fought because they understood the cost of letting war continue. The Emperor tried to rally his forces, sending more ships, more weapons, more soldiers, but each plan faltered. The humans anticipated attacks, exploited weaknesses, and struck with a certainty the Eryxians could not comprehend. The shock became despair. Pride turned to fear. Across the galaxy, the story of humanity spread. The oppressed whispered it in hope, stories of humans who fought not to conquer but to protect. The soldiers of the Empire whispered it in dread, stories of humans who moved faster, struck harder, and left no uncertainty. And the leaders of the Empire, once proud and unshakable, began to understand a truth they had ignored for too long. Humanity did not merely fight wars, they finished them. By the time the first night fell on the imperial capital after the battle, the Emperor could no longer ignore it. The humans were coming. They were small, yes, but relentless. They were few, yes, but unstoppable. And the Empire, which had ruled the galaxy without question for thousands of years, finally realized that a new kind of power had arrived. The fear that had begun as a whisper became a roar. The galaxy itself held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. And in the quiet of her ship, Commander Vance watched the stars, knowing the Empire had learned its first lesson. The humans were not here to fight a war. They were here to end it. The galaxy had begun to take notice. News of human victories spread from system to system, carried by whispered stories, frantic transmissions, and stunned reports from the Empire itself. Planets that had lived for centuries under Eryxian rule now dared to hope. Across star systems, oppressed populations began to rise, inspired by the humans who had arrived not as conquerors, but as deliverers. Commander Alara Vance watched the growing map of liberated systems from her bridge. Her eyes were calm, yet her mind raced with strategy and purpose. Every decision mattered. Every maneuver could save lives or cost them. "Prepare the fleet," she said quietly. "We move to the Raxel system next. The people there have waited too long." Her officers nodded. They understood that this was not a battle for glory. This was a mission to end suffering. The humans approached each planet with careful precision. They did not bombard cities. They did not destroy infrastructure. Instead, they targeted the enemy's military installations, disabling weapons and defenses with minimal loss of life. To the Eryxians, it seemed almost impossible. How could a species so small, so seemingly delicate, dismantle their vast systems so efficiently? On the surface of Raxel Prime, civilians peered from the shadows as human ships appeared in orbit. Their hearts, hardened by years of fear, beat wildly at the sight. Commander Vance's team landed in the capital city. Soldiers moved with discipline and respect, offering food, medical aid, and reassurance. They spoke to the people not as conquerors but as allies. "We are here to end your suffering," Commander Vance said, her voice calm yet commanding. "Your world will no longer be a battlefield. We will see that the war finishes here, today." The civilians wept. Some fell to their knees, overwhelmed by a mixture of relief and disbelief. For decades they had lived under oppression, believing that no one could save them. And now, humanity had arrived to prove them wrong. Meanwhile, the Eryxians scrambled to respond. The Emperor demanded reinforcements, sending more ships to crush the human fleet. But humans had anticipated this. Their formations were flawless. Every human ship moved with synchronized precision, exploiting every weakness in the Eryxian lines. Battles that should have lasted months ended in hours. Ships that should have outmatched them fell like dominoes. Even in the heat of combat, Commander Vance showed remarkable restraint. Captured Eryxian soldiers were treated with respect. Civilian casualties were minimized. Victory was never a reason for cruelty. Humans did not fight for revenge or pride. They fought to finish the war and protect those who could not defend themselves. Each victory strengthened the human reputation. Stories of their efficiency, their mercy, and their courage reached every corner of the galaxy. Planets that had long feared the Empire began to rise up, joining the humans' cause. Slowly, the balance of power shifted. The Empire, once unchallenged, now trembled in the face of a force they could not predict, a force they could not understand. Yet, humanity's success came with sacrifice. Ships were lost. Brave men and women gave their lives to protect innocence and ensure the completion of each mission. Commander Vance visited each memorial, speaking words of gratitude and remembrance. "Your sacrifice ensures that countless others will live in peace," she said softly, her voice carrying across the silent void. "You have finished the war for them." By the time the Raxel system was secured, the message was clear. Humanity was relentless, precise, and compassionate. They were a force unlike any other, and they fought with a purpose that transcended politics or conquest. They fought to end suffering, to end conflict, to bring closure where chaos had reigned. The Eryxians watched in disbelief. The Emperor, who had believed in the Empire's invincibility, now understood the terrifying truth. Humans did not fight wars the way others did. They did not prolong battles for advantage. They did not yield to fear or hesitation. Humans finished wars, and in doing so, they changed the very nature of the galaxy forever. Commander Vance gazed at the stars, her heart steady but heavy with responsibility. She knew the war was far from over, but she also knew that humanity's resolve could not be shaken. They would continue system by system until the war ended, until peace was restored, until the suffering finally ceased. And in the silence of space, a new hope began to shine across the galaxy. A hope born from humans who had come not to conquer, but to finish what others could not. The Eryxian Empire had finally gathered its greatest fleet. Thousands of ships bristling with weapons, engines glowing with raw power, formed an unbroken wall in space. The Emperor himself commanded from the flagship, his presence a shadow over every officer and soldier. "This ends now," he declared. "The humans will fall and the Empire will remain supreme. Nothing can stop us, but the humans were ready." Commander Ilara Vance had studied the reports, learned the patterns, and prepared her fleet with quiet determination. Every ship, every pilot, every crew member knew their role perfectly. They were outnumbered, yes, but they were not afraid. Fear had never guided humanity. They had something stronger: purpose. As the fleets converged, the void erupted with the thunder of weapons fire. The Eryxians unleashed their fury, confident that sheer numbers and firepower would crush the humans. Massive energy beams tore through space and explosions lit the darkness like fireworks of war. But the humans did not falter. They moved with precision that was almost impossible to follow. Each strike, each maneuver, was calculated to break the enemy's formation while protecting civilians and minimizing unnecessary loss. Hours turned into a brutal dance of fire and steel. The Eryxians realized with growing horror that their tactics were being undone at every turn. The humans anticipated every move. Every weak point was exploited. Fleets that should have been unstoppable were reduced to drifting wreckage. The Emperor's confidence began to crack. His orders grew frantic, disjointed, desperate. Yet amid the chaos, Commander Vance's resolve never wavered. She moved closer to the heart of the Eryxian forces, leading a small strike team aboard her fastest vessels. Their mission was dangerous: board the Emperor's flagship, disable his command, and force an end to the war. Many feared it could not succeed, but Vance's calm determination inspired her crew. "We do this for everyone who cannot fight for themselves," she said softly. "We do this to finish it." The human vessels penetrated the defenses, weaving through enemy fire with breathtaking skill. Boarding parties moved silently, eliminating threats with efficiency and precision. They fought not for hatred but for the mission, the end of the war. When they reached the Emperor's command bridge, Commander Vance stepped forward, her presence commanding even in the face of the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. "Your war is over," she said. Her voice was calm, unwavering, and filled with a quiet authority that made the Emperor hesitate. "You can surrender now or watch your empire crumble. The humans do not fight for pride nor for revenge. We fight to end conflict, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. It is your choice." For a long moment, silence hung in the air. The Emperor, surrounded by his advisors, his pride, and the remnants of his fleet, understood the truth. Humanity had not merely defeated his ships. They had outsmarted him, outlasted him, and outwilled him. The war he thought he controlled had been finished before he even realized it. Back in space, the remaining Eryxian forces ceased their attacks as news of the flagship's surrender spread. Their morale shattered. Their leaders, once confident, now saw humans not just as enemies, but as a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. They were precise, relentless, and merciful at the same time, a combination that the Empire had never faced. As Commander Vance looked out at the stars, her fleet intact though battered, she felt the weight of what had been accomplished. Millions of lives would now be spared. Planets that would have been destroyed now had a chance to rebuild. The war, which had seemed endless, had been brought to its decisive conclusion. For the first time, the Eryxian Empire understood something fundamental. Humans did not fight wars like others. They fought with purpose. They fought to end suffering. They fought to finish. And in that realization, the galaxy began to change forever. The galaxy had never seen an event like this. The Eryxian Emperor, once proud and untouchable, had surrendered. His fleets, his plans, his centuries of power, all had been undone by humans who fought not for conquest, not for pride, but to end the suffering that war caused. Across every system, planets that had lived in fear now breathed freely. The people who had endured oppression for generations finally saw hope. Commander Ilara Vance stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars. The battle was over, but her work was far from done. She understood that victory was not only about defeating the enemy. It was about restoring what war had torn apart. Her crew moved quietly, efficiently, attending to the wounded, coordinating relief efforts, and helping restore communication to the liberated worlds. The Emperor of the Eryxians faced humanity with a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect. Why do you not destroy everything?" he asked. His voice was heavy with the weight of defeat. "You could have taken all, killed all, and ruled." Commander Vance looked at him with calm eyes. "Because that is not what we fight for," she said softly. "Wars are not meant to leave ruins. Wars are meant to end. People deserve life, not destruction. And when we fight, we make sure it ends so others may live in peace." The Emperor did not respond immediately. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own actions, the endless campaigns, the suffering he had caused, and the pride that had blinded him. Slowly, he nodded. "Perhaps your way is stronger than mine," he admitted. "Perhaps humans understand something we never did." Across the Empire, generals and soldiers began to accept the truth. Resistance faded, surrender became widespread, and the people of countless systems stepped forward to help rebuild what had been broken. For centuries, the Empire had believed in power and fear. Now it learned a new lesson. Mercy, strategy, and decisive action could reshape the galaxy more profoundly than intimidation ever could. Commander Vance's voice echoed across the liberated planets. "The war is over," she told the citizens. "Your lives are yours again. Build, grow, and remember this day. Remember that even when all hope seemed lost, someone came to finish the war, and peace will follow because we chose it." The humans did not celebrate in pomp or pride. Their victories were quiet, respectful, and purposeful. They had faced fleets that outnumbered them, worlds that should have crushed them, and yet they had pressed on. Every action was guided by one principle: finish the fight, protect the innocent, and leave no war unfinished. In the Empire's capitals, leaders held councils to discuss the new reality. Their armies had been broken, their pride shattered, but their lives spared. The humans' mercy inspired fear of a different kind, fear of their own failure to understand the true strength of a species that fought not to dominate, but to end conflict. The galaxy began to whisper a new truth. Humans were not merely fighters, they were finishers. The Eryxian Emperor looked out at his people, now free from the terror of endless war. He felt a mixture of humility and sorrow. He had ruled with might, but humans had ruled with purpose, and in that, there was a lesson no emperor could ignore. On her ship, Commander Vance allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She thought of the lives saved, the systems liberated, the battles fought and won. Humanity had shown the galaxy a new way of war, a way that ended suffering and restored hope. She knew the future would remember these actions, not as the story of human conquest, but as the story of humanity finishing what others had started, ensuring peace where chaos had reigned. The Empire had learned the truth, whether it wanted to or not. Humans did not fight wars to prolong them. Humans did not fight to show strength or pride. Humans fought to finish wars, and in doing so, they had rewritten the rules of the galaxy forever. Across the stars, a quiet hope began to grow, carried on human ships, human courage, and human resolve. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy dared to dream of peace. The galaxy was quiet now. Systems that had once trembled under fear of the Eryxian Empire were slowly rebuilding. Cities rose from the ashes, farmers returned to fields, and children played under skies that had once been dark with warships and fire. The humans had not left destruction behind. They had left hope. Commander Alara Vance stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars stretch infinitely ahead. The battles had been long, exhausting, and costly, but humanity had endured. Ships were damaged, brave men and women had fallen, but the mission had been completed. The war was over. The Eryxians had surrendered not just to human force, but to human purpose. Across the galaxy, leaders of liberated systems spoke of the humans with awe. They were small in number, yet their presence had changed the fate of countless worlds. They had not fought for domination. They had not fought for pride. They fought to ensure the end of war itself, and in doing so, they had rewritten the rules of the cosmos. On Eryxian homeworlds, generals and citizens alike were learning humility. The Emperor, once proud and untouchable, now worked alongside human representatives to restore stability. He had seen his fleets shattered, his armies dismantled, and his plans undone, and yet he had also seen mercy. The humans had not slaughtered the innocent. They had not enslaved the conquered. They had finished the war with purpose, leaving life and hope intact. Commander Vance traveled from system to system, ensuring that peace would endure. She oversaw reconstruction, shared knowledge, and spoke to the people about the future. War is not strength, she told them, her voice calm but full of conviction. Strength is knowing when to end it. Courage is knowing that peace is worth more than pride. Humanity fights to finish what others cannot, and that is how we protect the future. Everywhere she went, children asked about the humans who had saved them. They wanted to know how someone so small, so few, could change the galaxy. Vance would kneel beside them, smiling gently. We do not fight for glory, she explained. We fight for each other, and when we fight, we make sure it ends. That is why humans are feared and remembered. Because humans do not just fight wars, they finish them. The story of humanity spread like fire through the stars. Scientists, soldiers, and citizens alike told the tale of the humans who came from distant Earth, who faced impossible odds, and who never wavered. It was a story of courage, precision, and mercy, of battles fought swiftly but purposefully. It became a lesson in every corner of the galaxy, that power without purpose is meaningless, and victory without mercy is hollow. Commander Vance often stood alone on the observation deck looking at the stars. She remembered the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the battles that had shaped the galaxy, and yet she also felt hope. For every system freed, every war ended. Humanity had proven something timeless. No matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how long the conflict, humans had the strength and will to finish what others left undone. In the quiet of the galaxy, the humans' legacy began to shine. Planets flourished, civilizations rebuilt, and the Eryxian Empire, once feared above all, became a student of this new truth. They remembered with both awe and humility that humans did not wage war like others. Humans ended it. Humans ensured peace. Humans finished it, and so, across the stars, the humans became a legend, not for conquest, not for empire, but for their unwavering determination to end suffering, to protect life, and to finish wars where others had only started them. The galaxy would remember it forever. Humans did not fight wars. Humans finished them. And that truth, simple yet powerful, would echo through the stars for all time.